So I've been trying to edit this video today, and I realized that I think I need to put a little bit of talking at the beginning of the video, even though normally I like to go, along with the timeline with the shots. I think I need to skip ahead here and talk about some things. About a month ago, I started deciding to kind of do an every other weekend post a kind of vloggy video, because I've kind of said and showed everything that I need to show. Every day at this point is mostly just more of the same things, and I don't really value showing that over and over again. So I figured I'd do one weekend where I'd post a vlog type of thing, and then one weekend I'd post more of a project or some creative type of video. And I still haven't gotten any creative videos up yet because things have kind of gone south, and I've been having a hard time just recording things for the normal vlog videos. And so what I've recorded so far has taken place over the last 2 weeks. But anyways, it's been kind of all over the place the last 2 weeks when I've been recording this. There's been a lot of new information, and that new information being changed into new information over and over again. And I've been just feeling really ill in many different ways. So before I get into the normal timeline of things, here's some stuff you need to know. A lot of stuff has been happening with the whole loan application. We kind of just got bad news, and then more bad news, and then more bad news over time. So they ended up assigning my case to someone that got sick and was sick for 2 weeks. So it took 2 weeks just for them to let me know if they had everything they needed from me, which is supposed to take only a few days. And I was really aggravated, but I thought, you know what, it's fine. My husband is mid-name change, and so they were kind of confused about what they needed to do policy-wise with that. And so they took like a few days to talk to their higher-ups and got back to me and told me that they couldn't process the application until every single document had my husband's last name, all the same name. So we couldn't have a mixture of both, even though we've gotten a marriage certificate with him being mid-name change, we've gotten a passport with him being mid-name change, but for some reason they just don't have a setup where they can handle processing someone who's going through a name change. So we're having to finish getting his name change and all of his documents, which if you've ever tried to deal with Social Security, government policy stuff in America, you know that it takes way too long and it takes way too much effort. When they tell you that they don't have everything they need from you right at the loan application, you have 15 days to get all of that information into them. Otherwise, they cancel your application and you have to redo it. So as soon as we found that out, it's Thursday right now, so it wasn't this last Monday, it was the Monday before that we found that out. So we immediately called the Social Security office and asked them a bunch of questions, and basically what they told us is if we mailed in his documents that day, which we did, it should take about 3 days to get in the mail, 3 days to process, and 3 days to mail the new document. And I thought, you know what, we've had such terrible luck with every single step with the loan application, we've got to get some kind of a break here. Then we would be able to get his Social Security card and then go and change his license all before the deadline for the loan application, so we wouldn't have to submit it again. And so we submitted it that day, we called like 3 days later, and they told us that they got it in the mail and it was now just processing. They're supposed to call when they finish processing everything and have, sent out the letter into the mail system. And we haven't gotten that call yet, and today should be when we already have that document and could go to the DMV. And we haven't even gotten a call from them, and they won't really update us on what's going on. Everything is being drawn out again, just like with every single step that we've had along the way so far. So we're definitely not catching a break. So I'm just accepting now that they're going to cancel the application, and we're just going to have to wait a week to get the rest of these documents sorted out, and then we'll have to resubmit the application in like a week and a half from now probably, and then that'll probably take 3 weeks to process, if we're being honest, if it processes at all. So we're going to be stuck in the situation for about a month and a half longer than it was originally expected to, and even that could change to be longer. So I don't know if it's because it's winter or because I've just been living in this apartment for a long time now, but my lungs and throat feel horrible, like all the time. My lungs feel like I'm wheezing to breathe in. I feel like I'm never getting enough oxygen. My throat is sore and burning. When I was talking about it last video, how you couldn't even see the mountains clearly through all the pollution, it's still that way, and it's been that way every day since. I end up like coughing and sneezing and having to drink a ton of water just to make my throat feel like it can get through it. Not to mention that everyone in the apartment smokes, and so all of their smoke is getting into our apartment. It smells like weed and cigarettes all the time in here because of how much smoke from other people's apartments gets into ours. But that's all you need to know before getting into the rest of the video. I'll be back at the end of the video to explain more things that have happened. That took way too long for me to get to. That cord hanging down there has been such a hassle to try to deal with setting up this camera stand. I'm so exhausted and out of it right now. Every day just getting through the day, having food in my stomach and water in my veins and a clean house and a clean body and everything, all of that is just so much work compared to how much resources and energy I have to put towards it. And so my project has just been sitting there day after day, and I just haven't been able to work on it, and it's kind of making me sad. But the best way to make all of these struggles less of a struggle is going to be to move, and the fact that it's been such a hassle and that it's been postponed so much is just making it so much harder, because it's like, well, I don't even know how long it's going to take now for me to be able to start this whole process, and it just worries me that I'm going to be here longer than I'm expecting to, and that's just stressful because I want so badly to start moving forward in these other aspects of my life, with my projects, with my videos. I want to get my Etsy shop up. I was hoping to get it up at the beginning of this month, and now we're at the end of it, and I am nowhere close to having something sellable posted on a website. I haven't even made the site yet. I haven't even started a project that is going to be sold. I feel like I'm not gonna get anything really done until we move because of how hard it is just to get by day to day here. And so the longer it takes for us to move and the more complicated it gets for us to move is just making it harder and harder to feel hopeful for, the business and the plans and the future that I want, because I can't even get to a point where I can start on it because I just have to focus on surviving every day instead of working on a future. I just want this part of my life to be over now. I am so done with it. I'm so over it. And that's all for now. I'm done rambling. I'm gonna go get dressed and start working on getting through the rest of this day. So
on the graves, in the cracks of 1,000 leaves, somewhere in between our past and our future, rolling over all the dividing things. Are you still listening? Wanna be heard by you. Slow fall into the Indian Sea, where the cold and the hot meet, and the powers that be lead.
I found that painting at the thrift store for like $1, I think. My plan is to one day add some more color and texture to the trees, and I want to add a little red Swedish house at the bottom and paint northern lights up in that sky. I figured by having it around and looking at it, it'd give me something to look forward to one day and to picture myself adding to and changing, something that was realistic to think about.
Call me back to bed. I find myself again staring at the edge, slow fall into the Indian Sea, where the cold and the hot meet, and the
lately I've been feeling increasingly that I need to take a very long break and cry and sleep and process a lot of things that I just haven't given the time of day for honestly years. And I actually started unwillingly processing some things. I don't think the person intended to harm me, and because I am not sure if the person even intended to do what they did to me, I just kind of discarded it as not possibly trauma. But regardless of what the intentions were of that person, that doesn't change that it was trauma. I have a trauma response because of it, and there were some things growing up that didn't really make sense to me why I had kind of the reactions that I did to specific situations and thoughts and things like that. And having this trauma resurface actually explains a lot of behaviors I didn't really understand from myself. And I feel like there are some other things, maybe not to the extent of that trauma, but at least some things that I haven't processed yet. I haven't really gone into detail or really at all into it. So, along with all of the things I've experienced as a child and as a teenager, I've also been through a lot between the age of 20 and right now as well. And I haven't really been able to process any of that. Any part of my life I have not been able to process well. I think I'm really kind of dealing with a lot of it right now. And I think I'm kind of suppressing quite a bit. I honestly feel really exhausted from everything that I'm dealing with right now and from suppressing everything that I have dealt with. And I just really feel like I need a long break. I'm not gonna regret this, am I? Well, too late to go back now. Well, it's done. So something else that's been going on that's caused a lot of stress for about 2 weeks was that I always have this same breakfast every morning. It's basically like baked half mashed potatoes with a bunch of seasoning and some veggies, some bacon or egg. That's what we've been having for breakfast most of the time for like probably 6 or 7 months now. Every single bag of potatoes that I bought starting about 3 weeks ago just started rotting immediately if it wasn't already rotten when we bought it. Some of the potatoes I didn't find out they were rotting until I started like chopping into them and I could see the signs of rot and ended up having to throw them out. But other times the bag would literally start oozing black liquid onto the floor. And so instead of being able to just make our breakfast in the morning and get on with my day, almost every single day I was having to throw out potatoes, cut through like 10 potatoes just to find, 2 that weren't rotten through, and having to clean up the black ooze everywhere. I ended up going to multiple stores to buy potatoes because I was thinking maybe it was just, one store or one brand that had them bad, but they all ended up rotting. And one day it got so bad where I had a few potatoes that had some rot in the middle of them the morning before that I had in my trash bag. And then a couple of potatoes that were sitting on a counter, and then a bag of potatoes that were on the floor. And that morning when I went out to go make breakfast, all of them were completely like oozing, reeking, like the whole house smelled like rot. There was black ooze everywhere from the potatoes, and I just about lost my mind. Actually, I did lose my mind. I was furious, I was upset and nauseous and angry, so I basically had like a cleaning rampage. I took the bag of trash, I took all of the potatoes that were rotting on the floor and on the shelves, I took all of them and threw them all away. I cleaned up all of the ooze that was all over everything. I took incense and I lit a different incense stick in like every single room of the house and opened all of the windows to try to get all of the smell of rot out of the apartment, because I was literally hurling, like as I was grabbing all the potatoes and cleaning things and all of that, I was literally gagging and almost puking from how nasty that smell was. And I had just bought these potatoes like 1 or 2 days ago, so there was no excuse for them to rot. I ended up figuring it out in the end, and we have other breakfasts that I make now, and I just have not bought a single bag of potatoes since then. I cannot trust it, and that is just the end for me. But that was horrible and stressful, because for 2 weeks I kept on having to clean up rotting potatoes, and my apartment kept on smelling like rotten potatoes, and then of course hit rock bottom. Also, even though the whole application process and everything like that is taking way longer than I could have expected, I'm still trying to be prepared to move, because there's a lot that I need to do to prepare for that. I have been doing some research lately, and it turns out that it's going to take about $3,000 just to rent the smallest U-Haul they have available, and that's not counting insurance, that's not counting gas, that's not counting anything else. And I don't know how that number makes sense to anybody. It makes absolutely no sense that it costs that much just to rent a truck. I could pay for a vacation for me and my husband to go to Iceland with $3,000. I'm not about to spend it on a small truck. Fortunately, my parents have a van. The van just kind of sits in their driveway. They've taken it off insurance, everything. What I'm planning on doing is taking the van and getting it back on insurance, just for, you know, the shortest amount of time possible. And then I'll take out like all of the back seats, and then I'll get like 2 of those bags that you can strap to the top of your car, and we'll just stuff those bags, the van, and my husband's car all full of as much stuff as we can fit. I'm gonna get rid of most of my clothes. It would be cheaper to get rid of all those old clothes and then rebuy clothes from a thrift store once we get there than it would be to try to move all of those. Something else that I've been working on that I've actually been planning to post this weekend, but instead I'll be posting this because I ended up not really having enough time and energy to really make this video what I wanted it to be, but it's been my plan since before I started this channel to make a video on how I made my wedding dress. With everything that's been happening and going wrong all the time, I kind of didn't have enough time and energy to make it what I wanted it to be, so I'm going to wait a little while to get that video out because I really want it to be really good. And I also have my dad's camera here, which I'm just borrowing. It's really cool, and I already used it to record B-roll shots of the dress for the video, so I want to record some more shots of me actually wearing the dress, but to do that, I'll need to drive out to some place that, you know, looks decent, and I'll need to have my husband record. I also need to kind of learn how to use this camera a little bit more. I also updated to the new version of Movie Studio, and it works very differently from the old version. So that's another thing that I've been having to learn how to do, and so between the both of them and between everything else going on in my life, I've just not been able to put as much time and effort into it as I was planning to, but hopefully by next week I'll have that video finished because I'm really excited for it. Hopefully this will be the last video that will be recorded on my phone. I'm thinking this is going to be kind of the beginning of the end of this kind of chapter in my videos and this kind of chapter in my life. This video will kind of be an end to the really crappy phone quality of my current videos. This will be the end of weekly stories and the beginning of every other week stories and hopefully more creative content. I don't know if I'll stick with this religiously. I probably won't. I'll probably just kind of play it by ear, but at least for a while I probably won't be posting stories every week. And then of course this is hopefully the beginning of the end of me living in this apartment and the beginning of the end of me getting through the process of buying a house. But yeah, that's the end of this story. I will see you guys next week in my wedding dress video, and then I'll see you in a week from then with another story, and hopefully by then I'll have some good news to tell you about my life. But for now, I'll kind of just be scraping by, trying to get through the day. So I'll see you guys then. Bye.